In every single crucial or difficult conversation that you have, you're going to observe one of three responses. Every single time, they're going to respond in one of three ways. And the first way is to respond with maturity. I define maturity as just the ability to see things from someone else's perspective. So in the mature response, the person sees things from a different perspective because you've brought it up now. They adjust their behavior and they become a better employee. Everyone wins. You've been able to correct them. They've been humble. They've taken the correction. They move on. They've removed the roadblocks. They go on to bigger and better things in their future. This is a mature response. And this is, of course, what we're hoping for. Here are some examples of mature responses. And I would say in the majority of cases, I do get mature responses. Things like, thanks, I can see that my attitude has been a problem and I'm going to work on controlling it. That person is showing real maturity, seeing things from someone else's perspective, not just their own, and having the humility to change. Or, thanks for bringing that up. I guess I haven't really considered how my lateness affects my coworkers. Same again. Or, I hate hearing that this problem has escalated to this level, and I'm going to work hard to change my behavior. A variation of these is the majority of the responses I get when I have a difficult conversation, and I think it will be with you too. The second type of response you'll find is a response of immaturity. And immaturity is when the person can only see things from their own perspective. Maturity is being able to see other sides. Immaturity is, I can only see my side. The problem is never with them. It's their circumstance, their home life. It's another person maybe that they work with, a system, or some other way that you or the company has failed them. But it's not them. It's always excuses, never ownership of issues. They're never to blame. So when you're dealing with an immature person, you know that the problem is never in the room. The problem is always something outside of the room. It's not them, of course. It's some other thing. My wife and I have 4 kids, and when I was a young dad, I was on the road quite a lot for work, and so I wasn't home all the time. So when I was home on a Saturday, it was a big deal for my kids. And here's what life with my little kids looked like. They'd come bounding into my room Saturday morning, they'd jump on my bed, they'd shake me awake, and they'd say, Daddy, Daddy, we are gonna have an amazing day. First, you're gonna get up and you're gonna make us breakfast. Then you're gonna take us to the park and you're gonna put us on the swings and the teeter-totter. We're gonna have an awesome time. Then we're gonna go for a bike ride. Then you're gonna make us lunch. Then we're gonna play Lego together. Then you're gonna have a barbecue with us. And we're gonna go in the pool after dinner. And we're gonna have an awesome day. And it was all about me, everything I'm gonna do for them. And you know what? It was so cute and it was so sweet. And I loved those days. And it was awesome to spend all that time with my little kids. And you know what? It's really cute when they're 5. But it's not as cute when they're 35, and it's really not cute anymore when it's 45. And that's what you will find with your underperformers, that those people on the bottom half of the chart, it's all about me. And that is my definition of immaturity, because maturity is just the ability to see things from someone else's perspective. Immaturity is when I can only see things from my perspective. And you'll find that people on the bottom half of that star chart display that immaturity a lot. Here are some examples of immature responses, and I need to say you will get some of these too. None of this is my fault. If management would get their act together, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Or, the things you're criticizing me about are things I'm great at. You should pay more attention to reality. Okay, that's a tough one. I'm only late because I have to take my kids to school before work. Doesn't this company care about family? So the one thing all these responses have in common is that there's no ownership. There's not even 10%. It's one thing to say, you know what, I don't own all of that. I think I own 75% or I think I own 50%. But when there's no ownership, you know that there's immaturity happening there. There's a difference between reasons and excuses, because sometimes the reasons that were given in the last slide, some of those things may be true. There's always a reason for underperformance. Their underperformance might include things like personal life challenges or difficult coworkers. That can be hard. Or poor systems or inadequate resources or tools to work with. Those things may be true, but the person contributes to the problem as well, and they need to own their part that their behavior has played in the situation. So maybe it's not 100%, maybe it's 75%, maybe it's 50%. But when you see a person who's not owning their part, you know that that's an immature response. Here's the right way for them to handle the difference. This is what I'm looking for, even when part of the situation really is not their fault. You're right, my attitude has been poor. Part of the reason for this is that I've been experiencing a lot of back pain during the day. I need to see a doctor about it because my back issues are not my coworker's problem. That's a pretty mature response. Or, I have been late a number of times because my home situation has changed and I have to drop my kids off at school in the mornings before work. Are you open to me putting in extra time after work to make up for the time, or do I need to find alternate transportation for my kids? Both of those are pretty mature responses. They're owning a big part of the situation and also explaining that there are reasons behind their actions. The third response that you may experience is kind of a scary one, and that one is revenge. This is where the person listens, but they have a hardened attitude. They may not say much, but they're planning to take revenge on you, the company, or their coworkers. Here are some examples of what revenge can look like in a practical way. Sabotaging orders or client relationships. Poisoning the wells with others about you and or your ideas, just talking badly about you to coworkers. Stealing or selling intellectual property. Stealing company property, just everything from putting their stapler in their pocket to take home to stealing product. Spreading negativity and gossip. Collecting information to prepare for a future lawsuit, or just spreading negativity online to a wider audience. Revenge can take a number of forms, but they look like these sorts of examples. You can also dig the well before you're thirsty. Here's what I mean by that. Describe the 3 possible responses in a staff meeting before you're going to have any conversations. Maybe it's a long time before there's ever going to be any issues. It's in a moment of non-conflict, and you just go through the 3 responses and what each one looks like so that every person has it in their heads, because what you'll find is that no one wants to identify as immature, and most don't want to identify as vengeful either. All of us want to identify as mature. So if you've planted this idea in their minds before the meeting, they're going to want to identify as mature, which means I hear the input, I adjust my behavior, and we all move on to a better future. Let's try an exercise. Role play with a safe person, maybe with a coworker, maybe with a family member, and try conducting a reality talk. Encourage them to try on a variety of responses. What will you do if they get angry, or if they get stubborn, or if they don't say anything? Encourage them to try on those responses. You'll get better with practice. Here's what you learned in this module. You learned the 4 cardinal rules for dealing with conflict. You learned how to deal with their emotions and with yours too. And you learned the 3 possible ways every person will receive negative feedback and what to do about it.